Close encounter. Ethan rubbed his eyes, struggling to focus on the physics textbook in front of him. It was late, his dorm room dimly lit by the desk lamp, but he needed to cram for the upcoming exam. Just as he turned the page, a blinding flash of light filled the room. Ethan jumped up, knocking over his chair. As the light faded, he froze, jaw dropping at the sight before him. In the middle of his room stood a girl who looked about his age, but she was unlike anyone he had ever seen. Her skin had an iridescent sheen, her eyes were a mesmerizing swirl of colors, and her hair seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly glow. She was dressed in a sleek, form-fitting suit that looked both futuristic and alien. The girl looked around frantically, then locked eyes with Ethan. "Please," she said, her voice melodic yet urgent, "I need your help." Ethan blinked, trying to process what was happening. "Who? What are you?" "My name is Zora," she said, stepping closer. "I'm not from your world. I'm being hunted, and I need somewhere to hide." As if on cue, a series of loud, pulsing hums filled the air outside. Zora's eyes widened with fear. "They're coming. Please, you have to help me." Ethan hesitated for a moment, his rational mind grappling with the impossibility of the situation. But the fear in Zora's eyes and the urgency in her voice compelled him to act. He nodded, making a decision that would change his life forever. "Okay," he said, taking a deep breath. "I'll help you." Unlikely allies. Ethan and Zora raced down the dimly lit street, the eerie humming sound growing louder behind them. Ethan's mind was reeling, trying to make sense of the extraordinary events unfolding around him. Suddenly, a familiar car screeched to a halt beside them. The driver's door flew open, revealing Ethan's father, Aaron. "Get in," Aaron shouted, his face etched with worry. Ethan and Zora jumped into the car without hesitation. As Aaron sped away, Ethan turned to him, confusion and shock written across his face. "Dad, what's going on? How did you find us?" Aaron's grip tightened on the steering wheel, his eyes fixed on the road ahead. "Ethan, there's a lot you don't know about me," he said, his voice strained. "I've been working with Zora's people for years, trying to help them." Ethan's eyes widened. "What? Why didn't you tell me?" "I wanted to protect you," Aaron said, glancing at Ethan in the rearview mirror. "But now you're a part of this whether I like it or not." Zora leaned forward, her luminous eyes filled with urgency. "The ones chasing me, they're a faction of my people who want to use our technology to conquer other worlds. If they capture me and get the device I'm carrying, they'll be able to enslave not just my world, but countless others, including Earth." Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. The stakes were higher than he could have ever imagined. "We need to get Zora to the Resistance," Aaron said, his voice determined. "They're the only ones who can protect her and keep the technology out of the wrong hands." As they sped through the night, the weight of the situation settled heavily on Ethan's shoulders. He had always seen his father as a simple, unassuming man, but now he realized there was a whole other side to him, one that was brave, resourceful, and willing to fight for what was right. The car swerved sharply as a beam of energy shot past them, narrowly missing the vehicle. Ethan's heart raced as he realized the pursuers were closing in. The hum of their ships grew louder, the eerie sound filling the air with a sense of impending danger. "Hold on," Aaron yelled, pushing the car to its limits. Ethan reached out instinctively, grasping Zora's hand as they hurtled through the darkness, the fate of worlds hanging in the balance. Secrets unveiled. The sun was just beginning to rise as Aaron pulled the car into a nondescript warehouse on the outskirts of town. Ethan and Zora followed him inside, the cavernous space filled with strange equipment and flickering computer screens. "What is this place?" Ethan asked, his eyes wide with wonder. "It's a safe house," Aaron explained, moving to one of the computers and beginning to type rapidly. "A base of operations for the Resistance." As Aaron worked, he began to reveal more about his past. I first encountered Zora's people when I was about your age, he said, his eyes taking on a distant look. I stumbled upon a crash site in the woods and found an injured alien. I helped him, and in return, he told me about his world and the growing conflict that threatened to spill over onto Earth. Ethan listened intently, a newfound respect for his father growing with every word. Over the years, I've worked with the Resistance, providing them with information and resources from Earth. We've been trying to prevent the malevolent faction from gaining a foothold here. Zara stepped forward, her eyes filled with gratitude. Your father has been a great ally to us, she said, placing a hand on Ethan's shoulder. He's risked so much to help our cause. As Ethan processed this revelation, Zara began to share more about her own world and culture. She described a planet of breathtaking beauty, with soaring crystal spires and vast, bioluminescent forests. But she also spoke of the growing darkness, the faction that sought to twist their advanced technology for conquest and domination. They believe our species is superior, Zora said, her voice tinged with sorrow. That it is our right to rule over others. But most of us just want to live in peace, to share our knowledge and learn from other cultures. A sudden beeping from one of the computers interrupted the conversation. Aaron leaned in, reading the message on the screen. It's the Resistance, he said, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. They've sent coordinates for a rendezvous point. If we can get Zara there, she'll be safe. Ethan nodded, a fierce determination filling him. He may have just learned about this hidden world, but he knew he would do whatever it took to help Zara and protect his planet. As they prepared to leave the safe house, Ethan couldn't help but marvel at the extraordinary turn his life had taken. Just yesterday, he had been a normal college student, worried about exams and social life. Now he was part of a secret war, fighting alongside his father and an alien ally to save the Earth and countless other worlds. It was a heavy burden, but as Ethan looked at Zara and his father, he knew he wasn't facing it alone. Together, they would stand against the darkness, no matter the cost. Danger at every turn. The journey to the rendezvous point was fraught with peril. The malevolent faction seemed to be everywhere, their sleek ships and advanced weapons a constant threat. Ethan, Zara, and Aaron were forced to rely on their wits and each other to survive, narrowly escaping capture time and time again. During the long hours on the road, Ethan found himself drawn to Zara. Her bravery and determination in the face of overwhelming odds were inspiring, and her gentle strength was a comfort in the chaos. As they shared stories of their vastly different worlds, a bond began to form between them, a connection that transcended the boundaries of species and culture. But there was little time for romance in the midst of the crisis. The pursuers were relentless, always seeming to be one step behind them. It was only through Aaron's cunning and Zora's advanced technology that they managed to stay ahead. Finally, after days of tense travel, they arrived at the rendezvous point, a remote, heavily forested area. As they stepped out of the car, a figure emerged from the shadows, a tall, stern-faced man with the same iridescent skin as Zora. "Commander Raxon," Zora said, relief flooding her voice. "I'm so glad to see you." But before Raxon could respond, the hum of enemy ships filled the air. They had been followed, led into a trap. The malevolent faction descended upon them, energy weapons blazing. Raxon and his resistance fighters leaped into action, returning fire with their own advanced weaponry. Ethan and Aaron found themselves in the middle of a battle unlike anything they had ever seen, laser beams and pulsing energy fields crisscrossing the forest. Ethan stayed close to Zara, determined to protect her at all costs. They fought side by side, Zora's alien technology and Ethan's human ingenuity making them a formidable team. But the enemy was strong and numerous. One by one, the resistance fighters fell, their sacrifices buying precious time for Zara and the others to escape. As they fled deeper into the forest, Ethan's heart ached for the brave souls who had given their lives for the cause. He could see the pain in Zora's eyes, the weight of the loss heavy upon her. But there was no time to grieve. The enemy was still in pursuit, and they needed to reach the extraction point where a resistance ship was waiting to take them to safety. They ran through the night, the sounds of battle fading behind them. Ethan's lungs burned and his legs ached, but he pushed on, driven by a fierce determination to protect Zara and the hope she represented. Finally, as dawn began to break over the horizon, they reached the clearing where the resistance ship waited. As they boarded, Ethan looked back at the forest, his heart heavy with the knowledge of all that had been lost and all that was still at stake. But as the ship lifted off, carrying them towards an uncertain future, Ethan knew one thing for certain. He would fight on, no matter the odds, to protect his world and the brave souls who fought beside him. The road ahead. The resistance base was a hive of activity, scientists and engineers from both Earth and Zara's world working together to analyze the alien technology and devise new strategies to counter the malevolent faction. Ethan watched in awe as his father conferred with the resistance leaders, the weight of responsibility etched on his face. Zara was at the center of it all, sharing her knowledge and the precious device she had risked so much to protect. With this advanced technology, the resistance hoped to turn the tide of the war and safeguard the freedom of countless worlds. As the days passed, Ethan found himself taking on a new role within the resistance. His unique perspective as a human and his quick mind made him an invaluable asset, bridging the gap between the alien and human members of the team. But it was in the quiet moments that Ethan felt the true impact of all that had happened. Sitting beside Zara in the base's observation deck, looking out at the stars, they talked about their hopes and fears, their dreams for a future free from the shadow of war. "I never imagined my life would take this path," Ethan confessed, his hand finding Zara's in the dim light. "But I'm grateful for it, for the chance to make a difference." Zara smiled, her eyes reflecting the vast expanse of space before them. "You have a brave heart, Ethan," she said softly. "Your world is lucky to have you as its champion." As they sat in comfortable silence, Ethan's mind drifted to the challenges that lay ahead. The malevolent faction was still out there, their power and reach growing every day. It would take all of their strength and ingenuity to stop them. But in that moment, with Zara by his side and the resistance at his back, Ethan felt a sense of hope and purpose that he had never known before. He was no longer just a college student, but a warrior in the fight for freedom, a defender of worlds. The road ahead would be long and hard, filled with sacrifices and setbacks. But Ethan knew he would not walk it alone. With his father, Zara, and the brave men and women of the resistance beside him, he would face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the stars shone down upon them, Ethan and Zara made a silent promise to each other and to the countless lives that depended on them. They would never stop fighting, never give in to the darkness that threatened to engulf the universe. And though the future was uncertain and the odds were stacked against them, they knew that as long as they had each other and the strength of their convictions, there was still hope. For they were not just fighting for themselves, but for the future of all life, for the right of every being to live free from fear and oppression. And in that fight, they would never surrender.